Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us. It's Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm Sean Steyers, along with Mr. Vince DeDario. We are here for a full 2 hours tonight. We're going to be here for a little while. It's Mailbag night on the show, so if you're coming in the YouTube chat, the live YouTube chat, be sure and drop your questions for us, and we will get to them as best we can. Unfortunately, Vince, we have to start today's show with some very sad news, breaking news that happened just within, probably 30 or 40 minutes of the show starting tonight. We got the official announcement from Notre Dame today that legendary former Notre Dame football coach Lou Holtz has passed away at the age of 89. And again, this came from Notre Dame. So this is not, I think one of the real unfortunate things with this whole situation is maybe 3-4 weeks ago. I guess it's been more than that. It was late January. So it's been a little bit more than a month ago. There was all this, there were false reports of
lots of
Lou Holtz's passing. Yes. The reports of his demise were literally greatly exaggerated. And he battled, he kept battling, which, is kind of what you would expect from someone like Lou Holtz. And unfortunately, Lou Holtz's family announced today, and Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame also announced today that Lou Holtz passed away at the age of 89 after spending the last few weeks in hospice care. Holtz, of course, won nearly 250 games, 249 as a college football head coach. 100 of those wins came at Notre Dame between 1986 and 1986. He, of course, was the head coach of Notre Dame's last national championship team in 1988. They went 12-0, capped by beating West Virginia in the Fiesta Bowl, in the 1989 Fiesta Bowl. Holtz inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2008, instituted several traditions at Notre Dame that carry on today. The famous "Play Like a Champion" sign in the locker room. Fighting Irish players, continue on their way out of the locker room. They tap that sign when they're headed out to the field. Plenty others as well. He also took the names off the back of the jerseys. And, with the whole, you play for the name on the front, not the name on the back, and that kind of a thing. But the 88 championship team started a run of 64-9-1, an 871 winning percentage for Lou Holtz at Notre Dame that included a 23-game winning streak, back-to-back 12-win seasons for the first time in school history, and a program record 9 consecutive bowl game appearances, which is pretty amazing. Vince, Lou Holtz is literally the standard by which every Notre Dame football coach who has come since him has been judged.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And obviously he's the last one to win a national championship. And, from a lore standpoint, you would think it was more than one. You've got all these other legendary coaches that won more than one, but he never did. But he is arguably one of the more famous, Notre Dame head coaches. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that many of us remember him as the head coach, and we're still around to talk about it. Whereas there's probably not as many people around that remember some of the other Notre Dame head coaches, you know what I mean? Or the successful Notre Dame head coaches. Obviously, there's a generation of Ara Parsegian fans and things like that, of course. But yeah, I mean, this one hits a little closer to home. I became a Notre Dame fan when Lou Holtz was the head coach, and they, like I said, they won their last national championship. I saw the statue go up, all of those different things, and he's bigger than football. He's bigger than Notre Dame football. He just was, even though he obviously coached elsewhere prior and elsewhere after. He will always be known as Notre Dame's head coach. And
that's what I think is most striking. Now, obviously he won a national championship at Notre Dame, so that helps, but it just feels like he coached at Arkansas. He coached at Minnesota. And as those were before Notre Dame. And as you said, after Notre Dame, he coached somewhere else as well, at South Carolina, and really kind of helped put South Carolina on the map. That was pre-Steve Spurrier. Spurrier obviously had a run there as well, but Lou Holtz really put South Carolina sort of back on the map when he took over. But in spite of the fact that he coached at those other places, none of them nearly as high profile as Notre Dame. There's no mistaking that. But he is pretty much, Lou Holtz is synonymous with Notre Dame, I think. When people in the sports world talk about him, don't you think?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, and he became very popular and very, infamous, famous, however you want to say it, with a whole other generation of fans when, he and Mark May, did their thing. And so it's just interesting to see what people remember Lou Holtz by. And I obviously wasn't around when he was, at Arkansas, for example.
Right.
I didn't realize, and I obviously watched, was it the documentary about Jimmy Johnson and,
the Dallas Cowboys thing.
The Dallas Cowboy. Yeah. I didn't know the connection between Lou Holtz and Jimmy Johnson and how
Jimmy wanted the Arkansas job. And
right.
He was kind of up and coming at that point. He wanted the Arkansas job. And he was not necessarily very happy when Lou got it. And then
no idea.
That butting of heads, obviously, because Jimmy ended up at Oklahoma State a couple years later and then on to Miami, and then Lou on to Notre Dame. And there was a little bit of bad blood between.
Obviously, I knew about the Miami Notre Dame connection, but I had no idea that they were on the same coaching staff and that Lou Holtz got the head job when Jimmy wanted it, and all of that drama. I had no idea, which makes the Miami Notre Dame connection even a little bit more steamier and more fun, to be honest. But no, I remember Lou Holtz obviously as the Notre Dame head coach, and I remember him and Mark May sparring with each other, while I was in high school. That formative part of my football watching career, watching those guys get after it. And, obviously he's been in hospice, and this is something we all kind of braced for and we knew was coming, but it doesn't make today any easier. It's still really sad to get that official email that he has finally passed on.
I'm curious, Vince, because as you said, you grew up in the area, Elkhart, and went to high school at Mishawaka Marian High School, not that far from Notre Dame, obviously. So I'm curious, as someone who grew up in the 80s, because by the time he got to Notre Dame, you're 7 or 8 years old. So you're still relatively young.
Yep.
But you were a teenager by the time his time was done, and they were hitting that peak in the early 90s when you're really kind of probably starting to come into a lot of your fandom. So I'm curious just how conscious of Lou Holtz, like the presence of Lou Holtz in your formative years growing up in the area, because he was done in 96. I didn't get to South Bend.
Sure.
It was 4 years later. Honestly, it seemed more than 4 years later to me as someone who, grew up following the program from a distance as well. And really started to become entrenched in Notre Dame when he was at his peak. And so I'm curious, just, your consciousness again of Lou Holtz at that time in your formative years.
So I've talked about this a little bit in the past. Like, I don't remember 1988. I was 7 years old when that all went down. So I became a Notre Dame fan in 93. Like, that is really kind of when my fandom took over. I was 12 years old.
And that's obviously the season of the Boston College, at the end when BC kicks the field goal the week after Charlie Ward and knocking off Florida State and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. So that is when my fandom took off, and obviously he was the head coach. And so I remember vividly, him being the head coach, and then all the drama that kind of took place with him towards the end of his Notre Dame career. And, I didn't know all the details, obviously, as a young teenager, like I do now, kind of looking back and talking to people who were around back then. But he was my first coach as a Notre Dame fan, you know what I mean? And so he is Notre Dame football to me as a child. Like, there's no doubt about it. And going to I went to some pep rallies, back in the early 90s and things like that. And I'll always remember, his motivational speeches that he would give even after he was at Notre Dame, his newspaper trick, that he would always do, those kinds of things. And like I said, really kind of came into my consciousness when he was on college. What was it? I don't remember what the show was called, but it was when him.
Yeah, it wasn't Game Day, but that's, Actually,
the
I was going
after
to ask
show.
you, yeah, like he and Mark May
Yeah,
became famous for the sparring, and I think was it Reese Davis who
I
was
think
the
so.
judge, and they would they would stand at their pulpits and they would have different arguments on different discussions and stuff like that. It really feels because like especially like someone like Jesse, you'll have to ask Jesse tomorrow. I'm curious, because like he's about to be 30 years old, so
Right.
like he doesn't he might remember just a little bit of Lou Holtz coaching at a place like South Carolina, for example. But I think a lot more people probably have more memories of Lou Holtz, the ESPN TV personality, than
Right.
Lou Holtz, the coach, because he was done coaching, I believe, in 2005. I've got all the stuff here, we kind
Was it
of
that late? I didn't
cobbling.
even think it was that long.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was his last season coaching at South Carolina was 2004,
Wow.
and
Okay.
then he began the ESPN run in 2005, and that basically
Okay.
lasted through 2015. So
So that, yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
So that was my young married life is when that was. And that was, yes, there were cell phones, but there were not video phones and things like that. You weren't watching videos and games and stuff on your phone back then. And so where did you get your sports information? It was watching ESPN. I would watch
yeah.
ESPN every morning before work. I would watch it in the evening. I was
It was
watching
old
ESPN
school. It
all the
was either
time.
you were watching ESPN or you were listening to ESPN radio or whatever sports
100%.
radio.
And so I
Yeah,
watched a lot of Lou Holtz and Mark May, and I hated Mark May because he was mean to Lou Holtz, and like
right.
that. So he was my coach first, and then he was the guy that I rooted for on that show, obviously. And when they were giving out helmet stickers and doing all those different things, like that was a huge part of my sports loving life. There's no doubt about it. So it's oh man, it's just I'm actually looking on my bookshelf that's right over here. I used to work at Alcona Country Club, which is in Bristol, Indiana. It's where my first job when I was a teenager. And Lou Holtz and Ara Parsegian came and played a round of golf. And I have their signature on a scorecard right over here, right in front of me. And just, looking at that just makes me remember meeting him and him being the coach and all of those things.
That's got to be, someone, I think it was Salty in the chat here, was asking for, like favorite stories.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like I don't have like a personal one. I just remember watching those games in that
Sure.
window from 88 till the end of his tenure, and just like skinny Lou Holtz with the hat pulled down, like the hat that looked like it was going to swallow up his head. And he always wore that kind of ring collar Notre Dame sweatshirt. Yeah, like the pullover sweatshirt, and just pacing constantly on the sideline, and then the grass and and all that, like going to kneeling down, crouching down, kind of like what you'd probably now call the Muffet McGraw crouch.
Yeah.
Or like
right.
crouching down,
just
and
with the
pulling the grass and all that kind of stuff. And the one I did interview him several years ago. And
okay.
I mean, honestly, I can't, unfortunately, like there's nothing that jumps out about that interview. It was just like a typical Lou Holtz interview. It was just like you ask him a couple questions and you just kind of let him run with it, because that's what Lou Holtz did, especially back then. Because
100%.
we're talking about he's probably still like mid 60s or something,
sure,
like that, and he was still going. And this was kind of when he was hitting his prime on ESPN and stuff like that. But I think the story that I remember most is not my story, but a friend of mine flew on, like on a out of South, it was either into South Bend or out of South Bend, sat next to Lou Holtz and, on the plane. And so they're sitting there, and Lou Holtz like reaches into his little paper bag, and out he pulls a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that his wife
I love it
had made for him. And like, that's like the greatest Lou Holtz story to me, is like sitting next to Lou Holtz on an airplane out of South Bend or into South, and Lou Holtz is eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that his wife
love
made
that.
for him.
I love
Like,
that so much. And he was, I have heard many a story about Lou Holtz and everything. And, my wife doesn't want me to tell stories about her and Lou Holtz, so I won't go that far. But what I will say is she had run across him in the past when she was much younger, working a job locally. and he was a frequenter of that place and was always super kind to her as well. And
Really?
yeah, so he remembers her or she remembers him very well. And I remember, so it's interesting. I never even knew stories that she was started to tell me 10 minutes ago. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. That's very cool. I don't think I'd ever heard you tell that before.
I didn't know it until like 20 minutes ago. So I'll tell you off
just
the air,
told you that she used to wait on Lou Holtz.
It was at a hotel.
Okay.
Yeah, she worked at the front desk and he stayed there all the time. Yeah.
Man, another good one. I'm sure there's a million people who have, like
I know.
a million little
yep.
Because
encounters
and stuff like
he's
that.
not a guy that could get through a crowd without knowing who he is.
No, exactly.
He's not an every guy. You know what I mean? Like if you see Lou Holtz, you know that it's Lou Holtz. And so he's not getting through airports very easily, and he's not getting through just the normal day and the normal crowd very easily without people recognizing who he is. And I've never heard a coarse word said about an interaction with Lou Holtz. So, I mean, that's awesome.
Unless it's Ryan Day. And I realize just posted, there's an Ohio State fan who says he listens to us sometimes during the season, but he tuned in to hear, I am curious because Joe is asking if Jimmy Johnson will make a statement. I will be curious to see like who does kind of say some different things about Lou Holtz. Like they've already I'm sitting here right now. The TV's right in front of me, and on the ESPN scroll, Hall of Fame coach Lou Holtz dies at 89, led Notre Dame to 1988 national championship, third winningest coach in Notre Dame and Arkansas history. So like word is literally about an hour old at this point that it happened. So I'm sure that you're going to hear from a lot of different people on Lou Holtz, and I'll be curious to see what Jimmy, if Jimmy Johnson does say anything.
And I don't know how.
Obviously, they weren't the best. They weren't fast friends. Right. I mean, it's like, let's be honest, that, save Jimmy Johnson's bleep for me, and I know Jimmy is publicly about it, but
I'm looking at Jimmy Johnson's Twitter page, and he's more active than I actually thought that he would be. So, obviously there's nothing on there yet concerning Lou Holtz or anything like that. But, we'll see what happens. I mean, he doesn't have this time of year, he doesn't have like a pulpit of the pregame show that he does for the NFL and things like that. So like, that's not available right now. So if he does give any kind of a statement or whatever, it's probably going to be on social media, I would imagine.
Willie in the YouTube chat says, I certainly expect the team to have a patch of some kind.
Probably true.
The uniforms, or it says uniform or a sticker on the helmet. You would think that they'll do something like that, but also, I mean, it would make sense, obviously. But
they had one when era passed, and so I mean, it would make sense that there would be something for Lou, and I'm sure that they've got something in the works. Again, this is obviously not something that happened overnight. This was not, a surprised situation. He was in hospice, for the better part of a month, and so, I'm sure they've been thinking about how to honor him in a good way and all of those different kinds of things.
Yep. Tojo says, very sad. More motivation for this Notre Dame team to leave, no doubt.
Sure.
Michael, the Adidas cleat, and I saw Michael say the Adidas cleat, the black Adidas cleats, and that was kind of one of the trademarks of the uniforms of those teams. Yep. They wore the cleats, and I remember having some discussions with some of my non-Notre Dame fans back in those, friend fans back in those days about, wow, why are they wearing the black? I always thought the black cleats just looked so cool to me, because it was still, we were coming out of the 70s and 80s when you were seeing more teams wear the white cleats and stuff like that.
Right.
So, like the black cleats wasn't something that everyone was doing. And, again, it's like, I always said that, you wear the black cleats because it makes you look slower than you actually are, so like you wear the black, but that team had a lot of speed. There's no doubt about that.
Yes, they did.
I mean, you had guys obviously like Rocket Ismail on that team, Michael Stonebreaker, Aaron Taylor, Chris Zorich. You can go on down the line, Tony Rice, and the Reggie Brooks and Tony Brooks and Ricky Waters, and on and on and on and on. So many great players on those teams. Brent Smith, name the stadium Lou Holtz Field.
Yeah, that's never going to happen.
They're not going to name the stadium Lou Holtz Field. I wonder, though, if they would, because like you got Muffet McGraw Court, for example.
Is it Muffet McGraw Court? Well,
yeah.
she's okay. The difference, obviously, is that she won national championships on that court, and she's the only one to do it. The difference for Notre Dame, Newt Rockne has 3, Elmer Layden has 1, Frank Leahy has 4, Ara Parseghian has 2, Dan Devine has 1, Lou Holtz has 1. Like, I don't see that happening just because of the history of Notre Dame football. Not to lessen anything that Lou Holtz did. He's got a statue out, there's a Lou Holtz gate already. He's got the statue. Like, I think that's probably where things will stand. And, patch on the jersey or the helmet or whatever this season, absolutely. But I don't think they're going to be naming anything anytime soon just because of the history of Notre Dame. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think it would be tough just because of what you said, because he's not the only coach to win a national championship for Notre Dame football. There are multiple guys who came before him who had that as well. So who's going to ultimately get that on? He did leave as the program's all-time winningest coach, and no, he didn't. I messed that up. Sorry.
I don't know. I know there's total wins and then there's percentage wins and things like that.
Yeah,
I think he might be percentage. I think he might be percentage.
I think so.
Like winning percentage. I think he might.
But off the top of my I'll have to go back and double check that. But he won a lot of games. Let's just put it that way. He won a lot of games.
No doubt about it. Yeah. Yep. Sad day.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very sad day. And, again, we didn't talk a lot about this at the time, but I was, it was really off-putting back in January when people were trying to get the jump on the scoop on Lou Holtz passing and all the false reports that came out about his death. Like, it was just like, I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly.
I call me old school, call me old fashioned, but like that was disgusting. Like I didn't like that. Like if it's not real, then what are we doing? You're talking about somebody's life. You're talking about a family, like that. It's just kind of gross. Not a fan.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Bill says he abandoned Minnesota. I mean, look, anytime you leave one school to go to another, someone's going to be spurned.
Did he abandon Arkansas too?
Right.
Like, it's fine. I'm not here for that debate. We're talking about him as the Notre Dame head coach, and it's a job that he always wanted, and he took it. Like, that's okay. I'm sorry.
Joseph says, how fitting would it be for Notre Dame to win the national championship this year?
It would add another layer to it, right? I mean, there's already all these boxes that are going to be checked, or all these different things for this season, and what everybody thinks, and based on last year, and just yet another reason. Now, I will say this: we're talking about kids who are 18 to 30 years old, because you can't say 18 to 22 anymore. We're talking about generally kids, young adults, whatever. They're not going out there and being like, we're going to win this for Lou Holtz like that. They may have met him once or twice, but he was very old at that time. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that that's a motivation. It can be for fans for sure. We know that Marcus Freeman was close with Lou Holtz. It can be for Marcus Freeman. I just don't think that's going to be a motivating factor for the players. But as a fan, it would be sweet like that. It would be just,
absolutely,
for sure.
Absolutely. And assuming that they are wearing some kind of patch or a sticker or whatever, like if they wear that through the season and they're able to finish the season with a national championship, obviously Lou is the last coach as of right now to win a national championship for Notre Dame, which again is like, that's why every coach since him has been held up to that standard. And the last two coaches, again, love or hate Brian Kelly, he did leave here as the program's winningest, in terms of volume, number of wins, the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. And Marcus Freeman is the guy who has actually, won games, like big time games at a level that no one since Lou Holtz has done. In terms of winning in the postseason, winning bowl games, going to an Orange Bowl and winning, going to a Sugar Bowl and winning, and those kind of things. So it would be very full circle if Notre Dame would be able to do that this year. Again, in case you joined us late and you haven't seen, legendary former Notre Dame football coach, College Football Hall of Fame coach Lou Holtz passed away today at the age of 89. His family issued a statement, and Notre Dame issued a release this afternoon, just a little bit ago, within the last hour or so of Lou Holtz's passing. And from University of Notre Dame President Reverend Robert A. Dowd, CSC, quote, Notre Dame mourns the loss of Lou Holtz, a legendary football coach, a beloved member of the Notre Dame family, and a devoted husband, father, and grandfather, end quote. The great Lou Holtz, may he rest in peace. Along with Vince DeDario, Sean Stiers, Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat, we will take a timeout. When we come back, we'll answer a few questions from our mailbag today, and I'm sure that we'll touch on Lou Holtz throughout the course of the show as well. Rapid fire in hour 2, we got to talk to one of the newest members of the Notre Dame coaching staff, and we will hear some of his comments. Brian Jean-Marie. We will do that in rapid fire in the 6 o'clock hour today as well. So that is all coming up. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. There it is. Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. See, it's like learning a new language, Vince. I'm sitting here in my hotel room and I have to learn things all over again. And I was in multiple browsers, so I was looking something up.
I know. It catches you by surprise, doesn't it?
I know.
Yeah, now you know where I'm at.
So is that the card that you just held up there?
This is my my scorecard from Alcona Country Club. It says Vinny, because that's what I used to go by. It says, hope you come to Notre Dame and play for the Irish. Lou Holtz, 86-96. So my guess is this was probably around 97, 98 in that neighborhood. And then on the other side, it says best wishes, Ara Parsegian. So
nice.
This is a treasured item of mine that just sits right up on my shelf up here. So yeah, sad day.
That is very cool, though. That is very cool. And again, if you are just tuning in, we started the show with the sad news that former Notre Dame and College Football Hall of Fame football coach Lou Holtz passed away today at the age of 89. He had spent the past several weeks since late January, in hospice care, and his family and the University of Notre Dame both announcing today that Lou Holtz has passed away. Our thoughts are obviously with him and the Notre Dame family, all rolled into one, and a lot of fans, so many fans obviously thinking of him. But that's a very cool keepsake that you've got there.
Yeah, I love this thing, man. And like I said, I was just a stupid teenager still in high school, and obviously it says come and play for the Irish, which is a pipe dream for all
can't beat that
young kids, obviously. And I was like, oh, Lou Holtz just wants me to come play. This is great. So it's something I will definitely always treasure. Forever.
Kevin asking in the mailbag chat if Lou Holtz is being laid to rest at Notre Dame. I have not heard. There was nothing like that in the announcement today, so I'm not sure. But Irish for Life 99 says they're having a mass of Christian burial at the Basilica. Wonder if it's public or private.
I would be surprised if it was public because the Basilica is only so big. But I honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I didn't even know that was an official situation that they're going to have a massive Christian burial. Now, is it just going to be a massive remembrance? Is he actually going to be at Notre Dame? I don't know the answer to any of those questions, and I'm sure some of that will come out as time goes by. Again, this is fresh information. We got the email literally an hour ago, so
we'll obviously share as much as we can, and there'll be a lot of different pieces of information that will come out over the next several days. So we'll share as much of that. But as of right now, the news is right of his passing. A great college football coach, a great person as well. And I think that was one of the cores of Lou Holtz is family, and the Notre Dame family. Is just such a huge part of Lou Holtz's extended family. But like I talked to Reggie Brooks, a former Lou Holtz guy, and who is in charge of Holtz's Heroes. He lives down in the Dallas area. I didn't even talk about this, but both Reggie Brooks and Tim Brown came to the Notre Dame SMU women's basketball game a couple of weeks ago. I talked to Reggie a little bit. Didn't get to talk to Tim Brown. Yeah, because it was in Dallas. They both lived down there. But I was talking to Reggie just a little bit afterwards, and we were talking about Coach Holtz, and he was talking about how he was still fighting, and still kicking, and he fought and kicked as long
he did
as he could. So some again very sad news of Lou Holtz's passing today. We shared what stories we could in the first hour. We've got you kind of checked through this mailbag. Are there any Lou Holtz things that we missed? Irish Chi-Town says, I'd love to see a special helmet to honor Coach Holtz for the Shamrock game. Now, that would be interesting if they went full-blown, like something specific for Lou Holtz in the Shamrock Series game. I don't know what they have.
I don't know what it would
maybe already planned for that. I'm sure they've got something, but
I'm sure they have something going for that game already. And I don't know what you would do with the helmet, though, because obviously the helmets when Lou Holtz was here were the ones that they spray painted gold every day, every game, and that type of thing. And they haven't done that in quite some time. So, maybe you do that. I don't know. I don't know what you would do from a helmet standpoint, because the helmets are kind of a sacred thing at Notre Dame.
Very
Or
true.
if you did like an alternate helmet, like what would that look like for Lou Holtz? I mean, you're not going to put like his face on it or something. Like, I don't know what you would do.
No.
You know, I don't know. I don't know what you would do. Maybe something. Maybe you have like the monogram that he always had on his hat, and make the helmet look like his hat or something. I don't know.
And that was the other thing that the interlocking ND hat. And I remember after I got out of the Army in '91, I don't know how I got a hold of it living in Kansas, but I do remember that I would get like the Notre Dame bookstore catalog with different gear and stuff like that. And I remember like getting one of those interlocking ND hats was like, that was one of the highlights of that time.
That was the look. Yeah. 100%.
Exactly.
That was absolutely the look. And I remember seeing some sort of a story. It was like the equipment guy, and he's like, you know, he has a new hat every game, and I always have to have, you know, it sitting right here. It was something.
It didn't look like a new hat every game.
I always just love that. I love that kind of crap anyway now, even as an adult. But I remember, you know, them talking about it or whatever, and just being like, oh, that would be so cool to have a new hat every game. You know, that kind of a thing. But like, he was very specific about what he wanted, and, you know, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I'm sure. Stymie says, for the blue gold game, eliminate the jersey numbers and just put position letters on the jerseys instead. Lou would approve. Eliminate the jersey numbers, put position
old school.
Yeah. That would be very cool, though. A lot of different things that I think that they can do.
Maybe go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm sure they'll do something. I don't know.
They absolutely will do something.
They'll do something.
I think, you know, for me personally, I think that Marcus Freeman just needs to come out dressed as Lou Holtz one game. Just like he needs to be in the Lou Holtz fit. You know what I mean? Even with the hat, everything. Just have the Lou Holtz fit for one of the home games, and he can crouch down and pretend to grab fake grass and, you know, stuff like that. There you go.
So someone just sent me a photo of a headstone that is at the cemetery
at Notre Dame,
and it has Holtz. It has Beth Barkus on one side, 1938 to 2020. Of course, Lou Holtz's wife, and then on the other side, it has Louis Leo, Lou. It just, you know, it has his birth year, 1937, which obviously was Lou Holtz's birth year. So it was
So they probably will have a mass of Christian burial in the Basilica then, because he's coming north. So that would actually make a lot of sense.
Yes, exactly. Tommy says it's at Notre Dame. So I imagine that cemetery right next to campus is the one.
Yeah, it's the one that's on the kind of,
because
on the way to St. Mary's, there's like a side road, like, yeah.
Because Newt Rockne used to be buried out on that cemetery that is on the, what would that be? The northwest side of town, out there off Portage.
Okay.
You know, the cemetery that I'm talking about. There's a roundabout there now. I think they put the roundabout in maybe 15, 20 years ago or something like that. But so, because I went out there and I had seen where Newt Rockne was buried, and I believe they actually moved him to that cemetery that's right next to campus there
area.
A few years back.
Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense.
Yep. I was just looking at that from Irish Chi-Town about the Shamrock Series game. I don't know what you could do in terms of a complete
like
helmet design
to
honor Lou Holtz, but I think they'll put something on there. He says, who is this? Is this you? Oh, this is Producer Ty.
Producer Ty.
Producer Ty says, I'm thinking they put Lou in a shamrock on the side.
I think that's the patch. I think that's the patch.
That's either the patch or a sticker on the back of the helmet or something like that. Brian NY says Regis Philbin is in that cemetery as well.
There you go. Things I never thought we'd talk about.
See, this is what they need to do. They need to Under Armour needs to do the Lou Holtz throwback.
The look, the whole
apparel.
look.
The whole, like I said, like with the ring sweatshirt and the Notre Dame on the front and
the hat.
The hat with the old school ND logo on the hat. And, just like do the whole throwback design.
They would make
for Lou Holtz
millions.
Michael says Freeman needs to wear the Lou Holtz hat for the whole season. I mean, that's exactly what they need to do. They need to make the Lou Holtz hat.
Yep.
And Marcus Freeman wears the hat all year. That would be perfect. And the ring sweatshirt for that matter.
The sweatshirt would be just clutch.
It would.
I mean, it's like the why my brain is completely farted out, but like the Chicago Bears, the head coach who won a Super Bowl,
Ditka,
the sweater he always
sweater
wears.
Vest thing, or not sweater vest, but with the stripes on the front.
Like it's just as synonymous. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
You got the Lou Holtz look. I mean, come on.
But Ditka had that hair. Itself. He didn't wear the hat to cover up that.
This is true. No, he had the hair. He had the stash. He had the whole thing.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's, you get an Under Armour to do the Lou Holtz throwback apparel, and then you find some charity, and you donate, a percentage of the proceeds from the charity, from the sale of the apparel to that charity. I think it's perfect. And then Marcus Freeman wearing it on the sidelines guarantees that everyone is going to buy that stuff. Yeah. So I think it's perfect. Get him to wear the black shoes on the sideline and the whole thing. Obviously, it's a different shoe company, but you get Under Armour to design some kind of black throwback looking shoe and the whole thing. It just makes too much sense, Vince.
I know. Just why can't we just work for Under Armour? We would make them millions.
This is even like, if you want what would be a cool moment, Kevin Park says, Mailbag, dress as Lou for the Miami game. Again, I think you do it all season long, but I think you get like Jimmy Johnson to come in for the Miami game and, like do a coin, like Jimmy Johnson on one side and members of Lou Holtz's family on the other side, like for the coin toss or something like that.
Man, I think that would make a little too much sense.
I know. That's assuming Jimmy Johnson wants to do it, but
would be willing to do it. Yeah.
But Jimmy was all in, Jimmy was all in on that Miami run. And, he was there for the Notre Dame Miami game. Obviously he lives down there, but that would be, I think that there's a lot of good things that you could do with that to remember Lou Holtz. There's ton, like, it would be really, hopefully they do something at every home game this year to remember Lou Holtz. Right. Because I think that he's obviously, that's the significance of the person and the coach that you lost, that, I don't think you do just one thing. I think that there are a lot of things that you do to honor someone like Lou Holtz. You flash that up there real quick. Oh, Michael says we got to be careful. You also don't want to get corny with it. No, you don't want to get corny, but again, he's Lou Holtz, so there's a ton of things that I think that you can do. Remember Lou Holtz.
For sure.
And like if Marcus Freeman is wearing Lou Holtz throwback gear on the sideline all season, or even if it is just one game, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
I think there's a lot of good stuff there. There were a couple questions that I did want to get to non-Lou Holtz related in the mailbag today. There's one that Domer Grizz submitted from the IB boards at the Champions Lounge.
What do we got?
And Domer asks, is Notre Dame women's basketball mathematically eliminated from hosting first weekend NCAA tournament games? If not, how many ACC tournament games do they need to win in order to jump up in the seeding?
This is a question that I would have thought like a week ago. I'd have said, stop it. You're nuts. What? Come on. They're getting into the tournament. Be happy. Now, I think it's a legitimate question to ask. I'm not saying it's a legitimate thing to happen. I think it's a legitimate question to ask.
And it is not only a legitimate question to ask, Vince. It's funny because I originally had a question similar to this that we were going to talk about in rapid fire, and then Domer asked this, and I'm like, well, okay, we can just address that in the mailbag. And this was obviously before the Lou Holtz news, but I did want to get to it. But it's a question that I asked someone this morning before this question was ever submitted, and this is very much in play. It is very much in play for Notre Dame women's basketball right now. It is not outside of the realm of possibility that they could still host NCAA tournament games. And as you said, Vince, like if we would have brought this question up even a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I would have said, that's probably not going to happen. But here they are with 5 straight wins, and the latest being over a top 10 team in Louisville. And so right now, Notre Dame women's basketball has a net ranking of 24. You need to be top 16 to be hosting first and second round games, because you have to be a top 4 seed. So obviously, divide 16 by 4, that's where you need to be. If Notre Dame has to win the ACC tournament for this to happen. Like it's not just get to the championship.
Okay.
They're going to have to win the whole thing for that to happen. Now, if they win the ACC tournament, that will mean that they will have beaten North Carolina State for a second time. They beat them, a week and a half ago? Is it a week and a half? It all blurs together.
But
they're part of this winning streak, I guess.
Yes.
NC State right now has a number 23 net ranking. It will also mean, as I look at the bracket here,
it means they probably beat Duke.
They will probably have beaten Duke, who obviously won the regular season. Duke right now is 10 in the net ranking. And so if you beat NC State and Duke in succession, that gets you to the ACC championship game. And then you're probably going to have to beat either Louisville again or North Carolina again. And those teams are 13 and 19 in the net right now. And what also makes this feasible is if Notre Dame does all that and wins the ACC tournament, and they have, which would obviously, again, give them multiple quality wins in this stretch. And it would also extend their winning streak to 9 games at that point. The Big Ten right now has 5 teams that are in the top 16. Maryland and Michigan State are 14 and 15. Ohio State is 17. So obviously only one team is going to win the Big Ten. So there's a good chance that some of those Big Ten teams kind of get pushed down, and Notre Dame gets into play by, if they pick up all these quality wins. Now, again, they're going to have to, like if someone on the other side of the bracket pulls off some upsets and gets to the championship and then Notre Dame beats them, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like if it's Virginia Tech or Syracuse, someone with a little bit lower net ranking, I don't know if Notre Dame gets the same kind of bump, but at the end of the day, as of right now, this discussion, I'm told, was just had internally by Notre Dame the other day, that if we win this whole thing, is this in play? And they very much think that, and this is not coaching staff, this is, from an administrative side, they very much believe that it's in play, that Notre Dame, if they run the table and win the ACC tournament, will be right on that line with a chance to be a 4 seed and potentially host first and second round tournament games.
Look, there's also a piece of this as to where, Notre Dame gets a lot of support, at their home games. And the NCAA knows that because Notre Dame has hosted many, many times. And so if it comes to, Notre Dame and maybe somebody else or whatever, they're going to look at that. Like that's part of the whole thing. Like you want to have your product with fans, you know what I mean? Like, and not all schools are as supported as Notre Dame is from a women's basketball standpoint. And so if the NCAA, within their rules, obviously, but if they can select Notre Dame as a home site, they're going to do it. Like, that's how I feel about it. Like they're going to do it if they can, right? If they're given that opportunity.
Well, because part of the deal is when you host, there's a bidding process and you have to basically guarantee you're going to sell X amount of tickets. And Notre Dame has always done a really good job when it comes to attendance at these first and second round games as well. So, yeah, I think that, again, if you would have asked us a couple of weeks ago, we would have told you were crazy for even bringing it up. But
that's back when we were defending Notre Dame making it into the tournament.
Yeah, like just getting into the tournament.
Right. Like that was like
no one even thought they had a chance to get into the tournament.
Right.
A few weeks ago. Exactly. And now here we are talking about, at the very least, they're slotted right now as a potential 6th seed in the tournament with a chance, if they run the table here at the ACC tournament, which starts tomorrow against Miami, by the way, 1:30 Eastern time on the Notre Dame radio network. They've got a chance. They're in that picture right now. So Miami did beat Stanford earlier today. So that means Notre Dame Thursday afternoon, 1:30 Eastern time, takes on the Miami Hurricanes. Cal on the other side of the bracket beat Wake Forest, and they will play Syracuse tomorrow night at 5:00. And Georgia Tech and Florida State are playing their game right now. Funny because there are multiple teams in this hotel that Notre Dame is staying in. Among them, potentially Friday's opponent, North Carolina State, in the same hotel. And we literally got here at the same time last night. So
interesting.
Justin asks how Duluth, Georgia became a host of the ACC tournament. Funny you asked this, Justin, because I just read an article about this last night. The ACC literally just decided, hey, we're going to open this thing up for bidding after they had been in Greensboro, North Carolina for several years. And they opened up the bidding. Duluth put in a bid. They've got an arena where a minor league hockey team plays here. And, there's a lot of hotels and, not big restaurants, but restaurants anyway in the area. They put in a bid and the ACC took it. And that's how Duluth, Georgia ended up getting it. It's going to be in Charlotte, North Carolina next year for the 50th anniversary of the tournament. But it's in Duluth, Georgia this year. So I'll be curious to see what the attendance looks like, because I think that's the biggest question everybody has, because North Carolina's always done such a great job. And I was talking to somebody else today. The last time the women's ACC tournament was not held in the Carolinas was before the Miracle on Ice took place.
Wow.
Yes.
In the 70s, huh?
Yes. That's how long it had been in the Carolinas. So,
holy cow.
Corey says, is it realistic that they would win the ACC, though? We're talking about Notre Dame women's basketball.
They've beaten everybody except Duke, and they only got one shot at them, obviously. But they've beaten the number 2, the number 3. Like, they've beaten these teams. So, is it realistic? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Duke will be the biggest, hurdle. Obviously, they're the number 1 seed, no doubt about it. Kara Lawson is the coach of the year. All the things that it's going to be a challenge. Can they? I wouldn't tell Hannah Hidalgo that she can't.
I mean, they've won 5 in a row. And again, North Carolina State, who is the number 4 seed, is part of that 5-game winning streak. Louisville, who is the number 2 seed, is part of that 5-game winning streak just 3 days ago. And North Carolina, the number 3 seed, not part of the win streak, but they beat them back in January. As you said, they have literally beaten everyone who's in front of them, with the exception of number 1 seed Duke in the standings right now. And they lost to Louisville the first time they played them, won the rematch. So, if they beat Miami tomorrow and then beat NC State the next day, they would get Duke after that, potentially in a rematch. Duke would have to beat either Virginia or Clemson to get there.
Sure.
As well.
No, yeah, right. It's not a given. But,
I think everything, the way they're playing right now, I think that everything is up for grabs.
I do too.
So,
I do too.
If I'm going scale out of 1 to 10, I would at least give it a 5 right now. I think it's a coin toss. Is it going to be easy? Absolutely not. But again, the way they're playing right now, I think they've got as good a shot as anybody.
It'll be earned. I mean, if they win it, it'll be absolutely earned. Nobody's going to be handing them anything. That's for darn sure. So all starts tomorrow at 11:30.
1:30.
Or 1:30, excuse me, 1:30. So make sure you tune in and listen on the radio.
And then Vince and Jesse they'll start Sportsbeat at the regular time at 5:05 Thursday afternoon. And then the show's going to be done by 6:15 tomorrow because there's Notre Dame hockey, like an earlier than usual start time. The pregame is going to start at 6:15. And so I'll jump in kind of toward the tail end of that 5 o'clock hour to kind of talk about whatever happens in tomorrow's game against Miami. So we'll do that on tomorrow's show.
There we go.
All right. Again, the news of the day, the sad news of the day, is that former Notre Dame and College Football Hall of Fame coach Lou Holtz passed away today in hospice care at the age of 89. Rest in peace to one of the great ones, Lou Holtz. I'm sure we'll talk more about that in the second hour of the show. You're free to send us some questions, comments, whatever you want to do in the YouTube chat in the meantime. And Vince and I will be back for hour number 2. It is Rapid Fire, Hour 2, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Thanks for reminding me, Vince. It's hour 2 of Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm Sean Steiners, along with Vince DeDario. I am coming to you remotely today from my hotel in Duluth, Georgia, where Notre Dame women's basketball opens ACC tournament play Thursday afternoon at 1:30 against the Miami Hurricanes on the Notre Dame Radio Network. We've been spending a lot of time today talking about the unfortunate news of the day. Former Notre Dame and College Football Hall of Fame coach Lou Holtz passed away today at the age of 89. His family issued a statement on social media. Notre Dame issued an official release today, and they put out a video with some memories of Lou Holtz as well. And a lot of our listeners today jumping in with some of their memories of Lou Holtz. Vince and I have been trying to do one of the greatest coaches in the history of college football. Certainly within the last 40 years, one of the greats of the game. We've been trying to do him some justice today. And, we talked a lot in the first hour about some different ways that Notre Dame could, honor his memory this year. And Gloric in the YouTube chat says they should put Holtz nameplates on the back of the Shamrock Series jerseys.
I'd be okay with that. I wouldn't mind that.
I wouldn't mind it, but here's what I would say to that. Would Lou Holtz want his name on the backs of the jerseys, considering he was you play for the name on the front, not the name on the back?
Nope. You nailed it. I'm out now. I'm out. You talked me into it. I'm out.
There are a lot of different places you could put it, whether it's the shoulder or, like something on the front chest or the helmet. There are a lot of different places. I don't think you would put it on the back just because of that. It's not a bad idea. I'm just saying I don't think Lou Holtz would want that.
Remember about 4 or 5 years ago when they wore the throwback 1988 jerseys? I think it was Alohi Gilman was there. It was about that. Wear those again. Like
that Vince, that would be very cool. And Under Armour, obviously,
those were good
because they were like a little bit, baggier with like
the mesh, they had like the mesh number, and then you can have your patch for Lou, and you're wearing the 88 jerseys. Like, wear those for the Miami game. That's what I want. I want those for the Miami game.
Absolutely.
Get those suckers out of mothballs. Let's go.
That. I like that a lot. That's a good one. But again, they will honor Lou Holtz, I think,
they will.
In many different ways. Brian says small nameplate on the front chest like Army does. That would be good as well. Oh, excuse me.
Right.
Has it already been 2017? Is that how long it's been since they did that?
God, that makes me feel even older. The Army one, they try to replicate what an Army uniform looks like. And so I don't know that that's the right way to go. But I love all the ideas.
We usually do rapid fire in hour number 2. We talked so much about Lou Holtz in the first hour, and if you're in the YouTube chat right now, whether it's at Irish Breakdown or Sports Radio WSBT, feel free to share whatever other comments about Lou Holtz that you'd like to share today. But we didn't get to very many of the actual mailbag questions. We've shared some of the comments about Lou Holtz, which is part of the mailbag, but the actual mailbag we haven't. So we're going to kind of we'll make sure that we keep answering some of the mailbag questions today. And again, if they happen to be about Lou Holtz, that's fine as well. You're more than welcome to do that. Salty Virginia Peanuts just can't resist the shots. He says producer Ty, who's running things in the studio as he always does when I'm out and about. He says, we appreciate you posting the commercial time durations. We're not used to professional production values around here.
Wow.
It's like
shots fired.
As I've explained before, there's one, producer Ty does a great job of doing things on that end. But two, as I saw Ty respond in the YouTube chat himself, he's just producing. When I'm in the studio, I have to produce and host, which makes it harder to do.
It does.
I know that everyone likes those little things, but there's a lot of different things to think about, like the talkie. The talkie is a big part of the show.
The talkie
for me. Yes, the talkie.
Listen, I can attest when you've got to lead the show. It's just a whole different kind of pressure. It's a whole different kind of mindset that you have to be in, like it just is. It just is. There's a lot going on. And I can't even imagine pushing all the dials and everything as well. So when I'm leading the show, I'm still sitting in this seat. I'm not leading the, twisting the dials and punching the numbers and the things, So it's a different mindset you got to be in.
Irish for Life 99 says, with Lou's passing, I have the feeling the blue and gold game attendance just doubled.
I doubt it. The blue gold game is not very well attended, overall. It's not like in the South where they fill the stadium. Like they don't even open up the upper deck for the blue gold game. If it's a nice day, you might see more attendance.
That's kind of the key to blue gold attendance is, the two things that tend to bring out a lot of people at the blue gold game: quarterback competition. Seemed like there was a pretty good crowd last year, and good weather. Because like if there's great weather, you get a lot of locals from the area who don't necessarily always get to go, to actual games.
Because it's like a day of thing. You're like, oh, it's a beautiful day. Let's go to the blue gold game. Like that's a thing. That's absolutely a thing.
Sam, get your mind out of the gutter. He said only two professions I know of that can be done in a hotel room. Well,
wow. Is podcasting one of them?
Yeah, I was going to say, is podcasting / radio.
I mean, I think I know the other one, but
because
I don't know.
Maybe there's three, like based on what maybe Sam was actually thinking about. Justin says, I love the Lou Holtz hat that said Notre Dame in the Gothic font. I'm trying to remember.
That's even older school. That's like early 80s because he went more, I think, to the monogram later on. But I know exactly what you're talking about. It had Notre Dame all the way written out.
Oh, yeah. I think that was like his first year
that
he wore that. And then he switched to as you said, the Notre Dame interlocking monogram. Michael Cannon sell Lou Holtz bobbleheads for the Miami game. And I just remembered I've got a Lou Holtz bobblehead at home.
Do you?
Yeah.
Man, I'm all for that as long as they give the media free ones.
That would be cool as well. Show up day one, and there's a Lou Holtz bobblehead sitting in the press box.
Just put it right back here. You'd see it every day. Everybody could just join in on the fun.
Vince is in on anything that's free.
Anything free, bring it on.
Sam says podcasting was one.
Okay. Oh, okay, good. All right, good. I don't know if you still have it. I still have my Under Armour sunglasses that we got when they first opened up the press box, the new one.
I'm sure I've got them somewhere because I've got this drawer in it's our guest room / my office space at home. And in the top drawer is like all full of like old glasses, old sunglasses, and little of this, little of that. And
I get
all that kind of stuff.
I got them. Yeah. Still use them on a regular.
Salty also says that he says, Sean, we heard that you were a member of the Blue Ribbon panel that selects seasonal player awards.
I mean, that's legit.
I feel like, based on what you told me, Vince, you made this sound much fancier than what it actually is.
I mean, it had in the email, it said, here's the ACC awards selected by our blue panel. Blue ribbon panel. Like, I mean, that sounds about as legit as it gets. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I think it's maybe ironic. Maybe ironic is the wrong word, but I mean, we're sitting here. Ty says, # Sean Blue Ribbons tires. Little PBR, maybe, slap one of those in there. It is a little bit funny that, we do the blue ribbon voting, but we get here to the ACC tournament. There's no media gift for blue ribbon panelists.
Ooh, what's up with that? There needs to be some sort of recognition.
We get our credential. That's it. Yeah.
Man,
feels like if you're a blue ribbon, # panelist, that you should get a blue ribbon gift when you get to the ACC tournament. Biggest event of the year, right?
I sense an angry email coming because that's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
I think so as well. There should be something at the end of the rainbow.
In Duluth?
Yeah. I mean, Duluth is the end of every rainbow, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the last time I checked. Now,
considering we didn't even know what other states Duluth was in. I know there's a Duluth, Minnesota.
That's what I was thinking.
I feel like there might be other Duluths, like one of the Dakotas might have a Duluth or something.
I think I said Dakota last time, and I was actually thinking Minnesota, but I think I said Dakota. It's whatever. Did you guys fly into Atlanta and then have to drive out to Duluth? Because that looked like it was about an hour and a half.
No, it was only about 45 minutes.
Oh,
but
okay.
We had a police escort. Actually,
that helps. Okay,
it does help there was quite a bit of traffic, and there was Wi-Fi on the bus, so I spent speaking of producer Sean, producer Ty, whatever. So there was Wi-Fi on the bus, so I spent the time on the bus from the airport to the hotel, editing and posting the podcasts from last night's show. So
there you go. Just making good use of your time. I'm surprised, actually,
that blue ribbon panel and smoke it.
I'm surprised bus Wi-Fi was good enough for you to download and upload.
It was really good, actually. Very good.
Shocked by that.
Yeah.
Shocked.
Yep. Uploads, downloads, and the whole thing. Wade Garrett, favorite Lou Holtz story or moment. We kind of covered this in the first hour, but I think Wade got in late. Again, mine, the favorite one that I have is not my own story, but is one of a friend who flew with Lou Holtz once on an airplane in or out of South Bend, and they sat next to him, and Lou Holtz pulled out his little brown paper bag, lunch bag, and pulled out a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that his wife had made for him. That is the favorite thing, my favorite thing that I've ever heard about Lou Holtz.
Yep. And like I said in the first hour, my favorite story is when I was working at Alcona Country Club as the club guy, cleaning clubs and stuff like that. Lou Holtz and Eric Parsegian came and played a round of golf, and I got their signatures on a golf card, on a scorecard, which I have to this day. And it was probably 1997-ish, 1998-ish, in that neighborhood. And so something that I cherish to this day. So that's my favorite story about Lou Holtz personally. So
Tommy's got a mailbag questions, non-Lou Holtz related. Would either of you expect a position change for a player who can't get above 210 pounds while playing defensive end?
I feel like this is a pointed question. Are we referring to somebody in particular? But it depends on the situation. If this guy is just rocket fast off the edge, then no, I would not change his position. I don't care how much you weigh. If you can get past a left tackle or a right tackle and make a play in the backfield, you're going to stay right where you are. So it really just depends on the defense that you're running. It depends on the skill level of the player. A lot of factors go into it, not just weight.
Well, and I'm trying to think of who exactly we're talking about here. Off the top of my head, how much is Logan Thomas at this point? I'm trying to remember what his weight is. Is this who we're talking about?
That's a great question. Let me pull up the roster unless you've already done it. Let's see.
Yeah, Logan Thomas is 207. So I just found.
So maybe that's what we're referring to.
I'm guessing maybe that's who we're talking about.
He's quick twitch though, man.
Logan Thomas. Yes.
He's pretty quick twitch off the edge. And where would you put him? Is he going to be an off-ball linebacker? That doesn't suit his skill set. I don't know what you would switch him to. I would keep him right where he's at.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember, Justin Tuck, especially once he got to the NFL, he continued to put on weight. Now, he wasn't ever under 215 when he was playing defensive end, but he also he was fairly long and wiry himself. Again, he wasn't 207, 210 wiry, but the biggest thing at that position is, can you get off the edge and can you get to the quarterback? And I think the biggest thing for Logan Thomas right now is just being able to stay healthy for an entire season and going from there and seeing what he can do.
And Tommy says that he was a linebacker in high school. That's great. Which linebacker are you putting on the bench for Logan Thomas to play? Because the linebacker room is stacked.
Because they've got 4 guys right now who have all played a lot over the last 2 years.
He has a much better opportunity of getting on the field at defensive end than he does at linebacker. So,
correct.
Yeah, I don't think that's not the way I would go.
Tommy also wants to know how many of the kids from Micah Shrewsbury's first recruiting class are still at Notre Dame.
Well,
where did those who aren't now? Yeah, Marcus Burton is there. Logan Imes is still there, and Braden Shrewsbury is still there.
That's right. He brought his kid. I forgot about that.
Yes, that's right. Like, lest anyone forget. Yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
But those are the 3 guys who are still. Kerry Booth is gone. Tay Davis, Keba Njai, Julian Roper were the transfer portal guys that first year.
Look at you with the info, the quick info. I know Marcus Burton was the only one from the Mike Bray recruiting class that stuck around. And then Shrewsbury obviously added to it when he came with 2 guys that were committed to Penn State, or more than 2 guys that were committed to Penn State that then ended up coming to Notre Dame.
Yes, I thought that there was another basketball question I was looking. I guess maybe there's not. I don't know. Sir Mohammed, Tommy says, what about Sir Mohammed? He was his second class. That 2023 class was, the one that we just rattled off there that included Burton and Shrewsbury and Imes, was one that he essentially had to cobble together. But Sir Mohammed was his second recruiting class. And obviously Sir Mohammed is still there. So
that is true. He was getting some decent chunk of playing time, actually. I believe.
Cole Serta, also part of that class. Garrett Sundra
in that second class. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So that was, I know it all kind of blurs together a little bit.
It does.
But, looking in the transfer portal age, I mean, you do still have guys who were there 2 and 3 years ago who are still here. So it obviously becomes a priority to keep those guys around. Ken in the chat says, should we nominate Ryan Day to be a pallbearer? Sorry if that is insensitive. That might be a little insensitive. I've actually been checking both Ryan Day's Twitter and Jimmy Johnson's.
Nothing
Twitter.
yet.
Nothing on either one of those.
I would be pretty shocked if Ryan Day comes out and says anything.
No, but you know what? It would be very classy if he did, considering all the back and forth.
Depends on how he says it, because it could also be very non-classy. You know what I mean? And that would have to be a very carefully worded message to not get pushback. You know what I mean? Like, for people not to take it the wrong way, even if his intentions weren't to be that way. In this regard, I would just stay quiet, I think.
Salty asks, other things being equal, does a school prefer to hire a coach that brings a new recruiting footprint or one that preserves the prior recruiting footprint?
I mean, I guess that depends on what your prior recruiting footprint is. I mean, is it a good one, or is it like North Dakota? You know what I mean? Like, where?
Right. If Georgia or Florida or Texas,
correct,
or even California to whatever extent, if any of those schools are part of that mix, then yes, you either want to preserve or get someone who's got a great footprint.
Yes,
there. But
correct.
Otherwise, yeah. I don't know what else to add to that.
I don't even know what else to add to that either. It is very much position specific to answer that one.
Thomas asks if Lou will be buried at the Notre Dame cemetery. Now, again, we have nothing official, but his wife is buried in that cemetery that is right adjacent to Notre Dame, that is just off the campus. And it already has his name on the headstone and his birth year on the headstone next to her. So
pretty good bet.
Right. Like, again, we can't say anything official, but that's it. All signs seem to point to that is going to happen. So, yes. Ty, who has the ugliest uniform / logo in college football, and why is it Kansas? I think what he meant to say, why is it Missouri, is what Ty.
Why is Ty coming so hard at you?
I know.
Specifically.
I know.
I mean, I feel like you could get him fired. I feel like that's how this could play out. I'm just saying.
I feel like you're right about that. That's Tommy said. Ty just got fired.
I mean,
See, he knows he can virtually poke, because we're not in the same room. So
For now,
that's right.
Sean has a long memory. Okay, long memory.
That's true. That's true. Which newly hired head coach will have more success this season? Matt Campbell at Penn State or Eric Morris at Oklahoma State?
Well, I think this is actually a pretty easy one. Number one, I think Matt Campbell's a pretty good coach, but he's walking into a much better situation than Eric Morris is walking into. And so, obviously, depending on what your definition of success is, right? But if we're just comparing the two, Penn State's going to have more wins. Penn State is going to be more successful than Oklahoma State. Like I don't even see how in any world Oklahoma State has more wins than Penn State does.
Well, the one thing they both followed the blueprint that Kurt Signetti followed, and that's bringing as many guys with you from your old school. Because these are two. There was a graphic that I saw a while back at after the portal commitments and all that stuff were done. Oklahoma State has the most incoming transfers of any school in the nation with 51. And Morris did the bulk of those guys with him from North Texas, where they were pretty good this past year. And at the same time, Campbell brought a lot of guys to Penn State with him from Iowa State. So they're both, again, following that blueprint. So I think that there was already a pretty decent amount of talent at Penn State. Now, the other side of that is I think that it's probably an easier turnaround in the Big 12, but I would probably lean more toward Penn State because I think that the combination of guys that he's bringing with him from Iowa State who are kind of bought into his system, plus the amount of talent that Penn State already had on the roster, I would lean more toward Matt Campbell at Penn State.
I see 9 guaranteed wins, in my opinion, on Penn State's schedule. Okay. You got Temple, Buffalo, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Purdue, Minnesota, Rutgers, and Maryland. I feel like they're going to win those games. Your challenging games are going to be at Michigan, at home against USC, and at Washington. I think those are 3 potential toss-ups, but winnable. I mean, those games are winnable, even though those are the 3 ranked teams on the schedule. So that's 9 wins right there. I haven't looked at Oklahoma State's schedule yet. And I don't know enough about Oklahoma State to be perfectly honest with you, as far as how good they're going to be, versus whatever schedule that they have. And I'm looking at it right now. Tulsa, Oregon, Murray State, West Virginia. Then they got UCF, Houston, Colorado, Iowa State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas. I think just a cursory look, I see more wins at Penn State than I do Oklahoma State.
Yeah. But again, the Oklahoma State schedule is not
a murderer's row
by any means.
Don't get me wrong. This is not murderer's row. You've got a top 10 team in Texas Tech, at least in the preseason. You got a top 5 team in Oregon in the preseason. I feel like those are losses, right? Then they'd have to win every other game, in my opinion, to have a better record than Penn State.
Yeah. I would say 8 would probably be my Oklahoma State ceiling.
I think that's good. Yeah.
And like you said, probably 9 would be about.
So they're close. They're closer than I thought. They're closer than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take our final break. And then when we come back, we'll hear from Brian Jean-Marie, Notre Dame's new linebackers coach, spoke with the media today for the first time since taking the job here. So we'll do that when we return and wrap things up tonight with Vince DeDario, Sean Steyer's Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It is time for Rapid Fire on Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com with Vince DeDario. I'm Sean Stiers. We've got a few minutes here before we get to our first question. Tommy wants to know what's for dinner tonight. I had dinner before the show because actually the team meal started right at 5 o'clock when the show was starting. So I went right down the road. There is a Moe's Mexican Grill, and I got a little.
Did you get a
chicken?
Welcome to Moe's when you walked in?
They didn't do that. They didn't do that. Now that you mention it,
that was my favorite part about going to Moe's when they used to have one around here.
Hadn't been to Moe's in a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't as happy because they closed down out there. Didn't they?
Did. Yeah, it's not around. We've got a lasagna in the oven.
Ooh.
So. Yeah, a little lasagna.
I bet your house smells good right now.
It smells amazing. I just went upstairs and it was literally 15 seconds away from dinging, which means I'm going to have to warm mine up. But that's okay. That's okay. That's just the role of dad. But looking forward to that one.
Sam says that's brave before alive. Oh, now that's just a cheap shot. I didn't even get to that last part. That's a very low blow, Sam. Come on. Keep it above the waistline, sunshine. It's just not.
Come on, Tom,
okay, so yes, Notre Dame's new linebackers coach talked with the media today for the first time since he joined Marcus Freeman's staff. And first things first, he was asked the official pronunciation of his last name.
We're big on that here.
Jean-Marie. And it's been butchered a lot of different ways, and I did not mind it. I was a football player, so there was many announcers on some of the loudspeakers through high school that really butchered it. Once I got married, my wife is on me to make sure it gets pronounced the right way. Even though she inherited it, she wants it done the right way. There you go. Thank you.
I missed the very. Is it Jean?
Jean-Marie.
Okay. All right.
French, basically. Like the French pronunciation.
Which is what I would have guessed.
Jean. And then it looks like Mary, but it is Marie. So.
Even though there's a promo going out right now that I have heard over on the radio side that
is that still out the one where we're talking about it? The pronunciation?
Jean Mary. Yeah. And I'm sure he's like listening to the radio. It's like, who's this idiot who's calling me Jean Mary? It's like totally out of context because I was joking around.
Yes. I mean, we both know, like, how many times have you been, your name is DeDario. How many times have you been called DeDario?
Like all the time, basically.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
Yep. And mine, Stiers, like when people hear it, people actually who listen to the show and know who I am, you can say Stiers, but like growing up, it was Stirs, Stires, Stries, like a lot of different, talk about butchering of name. I would say Stirs was probably the most common mispronunciation.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. I also get irritated if the second D in my name is not capitalized. I've trained my children. I've trained my children to that's misspelled. If it's not capitalized, it is misspelled. But that happens all the time too.
It's okay, DeDario.
You know what? You know better.
I actually like the Vinny. I didn't realize that you went by Vinny so much because ever since I've known you, it's always that kind of when you were segueing out of it, like your early 20s. It's time to ditch my Vinny past, and now it needs to be. I don't want to be Vincent, but I've got to go Vince now.
Like it was like Vince feels more of like an adult name, like I'm going into the workplace kind of a deal. Like I probably shouldn't be Vinny anymore. But yeah, it's how I know if I'm running into people that I knew in high school and college or after, because, hey, Vinny, what's going on? Like, I knew you back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Okay. On to more pressing matters.
Yes.
What stood out to Brian Jean-Marie when he watched his new group of linebackers on film for the first time?
Number one thing, because we were blessed to play a lot of players last year in that linebacker room. I think I counted at least 5 that played, probably over 100 snaps, and that's very rare in college football now. So when you look at the room, the first thing you look at is just the leadership. You have so many guys that have played and made it deep into a playoff run and, started, young and played early. So you look at that part, first, that you can coach them, at a little higher level. And then you look at the aggressiveness. I think that's what you like about this group. Even before I came here, when you watch them on crossover tape, they play hard, they play aggressive, they play a physical brand of football that me as a linebacker coach, drew me to this opportunity when it came open. So, with this group, they're going to play hard. They're going to, play smart, and, they're going to make a lot of plays. So, like I said, it's a great group to work with.
Vince, this has to be a coach's dream scenario, to come into a situation like this and inherit the amount of both experience and a high level of play that Brian Jean-Marie is getting here at Notre Dame, taking over this group.
I feel like this is like Jawan Sider last year, walking into that running back room being like, all right, I guess I just don't need to screw this up, basically. Like that's what it feels like for him as well going into this linebacker room. He's right. There's 5 guys with over 100 snaps. Like, you don't walk into rooms like that all over the country.
Well over 100 snaps. Drake Bowen played almost 600 snaps last year. Jaden Osbury played 437. KVA, Kingston Biliamu Asa, 435. And Jalen Sneed played 315. So,
So you've got everybody over 300 there.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming it was the freshman that probably was up over 100.
Let me see if I can
see if you can probably can't filter it by
real quick. I've got the snap count, so let me make sure I've got the right season. First of all, here we go. Boom, boom, boom. I've got to wait for it to update here.
I'm guessing Faremo was the one that was just over 100.
He was 144. Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got 5 guys who are all over, well over 100 snaps.
4 over 300 and 5 over 100. That's
right.
That's pretty legit right there. So his biggest thing, it's going to be, he's going to have to Phil Jackson this thing. It's like, okay, well, who's getting the minutes? You know what I mean? You're managing egos. You're managing, leaders. You're managing guys that have been around for a long time and figuring out, okay, well, what's our best duo to be on the field and what's that look like?
Well, and he kind of echoed what Max Bulla was echoing last year, because 2 years ago, when all these guys were inexperienced, this rotation made a lot of sense, because it's like, okay, you've got 4 guys who are all pretty talented, but KVA, for example, 2 years ago was a true freshman, and Drake Bowen was coming on the heels of JD Bertrand and Maris Leofau. So like, he had played, but it was still dabbling. And so what they did in 2024, the rotation made even more sense because of the fact that you've got all this talent, but it's inexperience. So you're trying to play to the strengths of each guy as much as possible and sort of get what you can out of this rotation. So the snap counts were a little bit lower in 2024, but they managed to maximize as much as possible what they had in that room. And then going into last year, I remember when we got to talk to Max Bullitt, he was talking about, well, there'll still be a rotation, but the standard is higher now. And so you've got to show that you can do it. We're not just going to rotate to rotate. And that's kind of, there was another comment where Brian Jean-Marie said that today as well. Like, you've got to produce. It's we're not just going to rotate guys to rotate guys. But I think that, from what they've shown, they can still do a lot of that this year and still really maximize what they've got.
I think it's like, you go with the hot hand, who's reading this the best, who's making the plays, who's coming downhill, I think you go with the hot hand. I think you can do that with this group, and obviously you'll have different packages that different guys are in and, those kinds of things. But if you're just in your base offense or base defense, I think you can just go with the hot hand.
Yeah, I think so as well. So how do you make a group that's that experienced even better? Here's how Brian Jean-Marie answered that.
Hey, when we get together, we got a group that comes in my office probably every day, and they're just eager to find, even the 1 inch of something that can make them better. We're going to keep working. I think it's probably too early to say they need to get better in this area or that better, or get better in a certain area. I think the biggest thing that I challenge them with, we probably got to attack the football more. While it's in the air. I think that's the challenge for the linebacker room. We're going to start at a low number, hopefully get 2 or 3 interceptions next year.
I think that's the starting point, especially for what today's game is. You've got guys playing in space so much, and obviously they're going more with the nickel package as opposed to when they had the rover as much as they did. Like pass defense by the linebackers seems to be the biggest thing. I don't know. Is there anything else that you would go with, Vince?
No, I think that's a good one. What I found very interesting from that comment, he didn't say like the room shows up. He said a group of guys show up. I'm very curious to know, and I will never know. I'm very curious to know who that group is that shows up in his office every day watching film and that kind of a thing. It's just the way he said it. It didn't sound like it was everybody, like it was all 5 of the guys he's referring to.
Good ear. Yeah, that's
I don't know.
true.
I was curious. That's what stuck out to me with that particular thing. Look, there's always things that you can work on. Obviously, it's how you become special is that you are not perfect and you've always got stuff to work on. I think pass defense is a really, really good one. Actually, just getting back in your drops, having fast hands and quick hands and things like that. I think that's going to be super important. They got better as the year went on, but there's definitely room for improvement there.
Yeah, that's still the biggest thing. I think Kingston Viliamo Asa is the best of that group in pass coverage. Curious to see what kind of update we get here. Actually, 2 weeks from today will be when Marcus Freeman does his spring kickoff press conference,
right.
Kind of where KVA is in terms of his recovery from his knee injury. I wouldn't expect him to be around, like practicing this spring, but is he, like on track to potentially be ready for the fall? I think that'll be a big question, but no doubt pass coverage, I think is where it's at because they're great doing pretty much everything else. But, again, with where the game is, where the college game is right now, you got to be able to cover,
Yep.
And there were obviously some moments we can look at from last year and say, yep, they've got to be better in pass coverage. Okay, final comment from Brian Jean-Marie, Notre Dame's new linebackers coach. How do you divvy up the reps this spring between the veterans and the young guys? And here's his answer to that.
It's the best of both worlds. I think obviously the linebacker group in itself, it's a perfect mix. It's what you would want. You have some high level, veteran guys, but you have some young talent too, with the transfer portal and the way college football is now. Sometimes you can get rooms that are very inexperienced. And when you come here and you look at what our depth chart looks like, you're pretty happy because you got a chance to, develop some young guys and you have an opportunity to, help some of the veteran guys even play at a higher level than what they've played.
I don't know, Vince, like, what do you think? Because you do have all this experience. They've been around the block quite a bit. It's really more about familiarization between him, and the veterans, especially. Do you go out of your way to give these younger guys more reps in the spring, considering these other guys do have so much experience? What do you think?
I think this is tough because if this was Max Bulla, I don't need my guys taking a bunch of reps. I think I would have them doing a lot of mental reps and things like that. And let's get the younger guys out on the field and let them run around and do some different things. So, but he is new and he does want to see what he's got. You know what I mean? He's going to want to see, what the different combinations look like together, and there's going to be time for that. But I think it's going to have to be a very concerted effort to minimize reps for the older guys, but also to see some groupings and some pairings and even linebackers and defensive linemen, like which group kind of works the best together and like all of those different things. And you can't do that if your studs are on the sideline all the time, right? I would have some younger guys getting out there and running around and taking some of the load off of the older guys for sure. But I definitely
that's what I
think. The older guys.
But it's also like Faramo, I think needs to get a lot of reps.
Yeah.
And then, like you look at Kia, as another guy who needs to get it. And I think you're right. Like you kind of mix and match it a little
Right.
bit.
And you're just getting an idea. I mean, you get
Yeah.
things cemented, obviously, over in during fall practice and things like that. And with 25 new guys coming in, right? You got 25 early enrollees. You almost have to treat spring similar to what they do in the fall, where they have basically two fields. You got kind of a young guy field and you got an older guy field. Like, you do have to do some of that because you're going to have way more bodies on the field than you normally do in spring ball. Because usually you're just getting rid of the seniors. You got a couple early enrollees, kind of a deal. You got way more bodies this year than you've ever had before. So I think you have to treat it a little bit like fall camp.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that it makes sense to give the young guys a lot of looks. But like you said, like first unit over here and use the space as much as possible. With the spring to kind of get a mix. We'll finish with some thoughts on Lou Holtz as we kind of wind things down here tonight on the show. And again, if you joined us late and you hadn't heard the news, former Notre Dame and College Football Hall of Fame head coach Lou Holtz passed away today at the age of 89. Both his family released a statement and the University of Notre Dame released they had a press release about Lou Holtz's passing today, and obviously we all of our thoughts and prayers go out to the Notre Dame family at large, and of course Lou Holtz's family specifically as well. Anthony says, I never saw Lou Holtz as coaching the Irish. What I saw him coaching mostly was the Wolfpack in the ACC. Can you explain if his coaching style and philosophy changed from both stops? I mean, the Wolfpack in the ACC, that's early to mid 70s. So that is like way before either one of our times. So I would just imagine, like every coach, your philosophies evolve over time. But I cannot speak to anything that happened in the 1970s when Lou Holtz was at North Carolina State.
All I can say is he was always an intense coach. He was always a player's coach, but he was very intense on game day. I'm sure he was intense in practice, but I obviously never saw that. I don't think that changed over the decades of coaching for Lou Holtz. I don't think he got more mellow or anything like that. He was always intense, and so that's what I would imagine is the case.
Before we run out of time here, I do want to get this in. Mike Greenberg from ESPN posted this on Twitter X just a little bit ago. And it was a story that Greenberg had from when he was just starting out, or not starting out, but he was anchoring SportsCenter one afternoon. Lou Holtz was on the show, and he said he was quite excited to talk with him. He'd been an icon for all of his life. And again, this is coming from Mike Greenberg, who is still at ESPN now and has been there for more than 30 years at this point. But Greenberg says Holtz was very friendly, asked him all about himself, and walked toward the studio to record an interview. And he said, actually, Coach, it's quite exciting. My wife and I are expecting our first child in the next few days. And Greenberg says Lou Holtz stopped dead at his tracks, put a finger up near his face, and he will never forget what is said. Young man, the most important thing you can do for a child is to make sure every day they know how much you love their mother. And this is a story that I've heard Mike Greenberg talk about over and over again from back. I think he used to tell it all the time back in his days on ESPN radio when he was still doing Mike and Mike. That is one of the things that you always heard about Lou Holtz. And obviously he was a great coach, but I think first and foremost, like at the top of the list for Lou Holtz, you would say father, husband, family man, would be at the top of the list for Lou Holtz.
And I think that's one of the things that endeared him to the Notre Dame family and the Notre Dame community was that, yes, he was a great football coach. Yes, he brought Notre Dame a national championship. No doubt about all of that. But it's who he was as a man. It's who he was as outside the realm of football and the interactions that he had with people. And he was just genuine. He was genuine. And it made it very easy to root for him and not Mark May.
That's right. That is exactly right. But that was like vintage ESPN college football back then was the Lou Holtz, Mark May back and forth. And there was obviously a lot of shtick to it. They both played their role.
Oh, sure.
Like to some extent it was like early college football hot takes. But I always, it was a lot of fun, and you're absolutely right. It made it very easy for people to hate Mark May, especially if you're a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah.
All right. Tommy says that we were only a few minutes away from each other today. Says he came down 85 today. excuse me, in the Georgia area. That pre-show meal, I'm starting to feel it a little bit right now. As,
Oh,
someone in the
boy.
chat earlier said that I would. All right, we're going to wrap it up for that. Thanks for producer Ty back in the studio holding things together today. Thanks to Vince. As always, I'm Sean Stiers. We will talk to you on tomorrow's show. Thanks for all the great questions. And, of course, rest in peace to the great Lou Holtz, and thoughts and prayers to his family. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.